right. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Lifeline for Daily Living. So glad that you've joined me today. I want to talk about something today that is affecting everyone. And it began really last January, February, certainly into March. Our lives had been turned upside down. They've really been turned inside out. When we're really honest with ourselves, things have just kind of gone sideways on multiple fronts. And what I'm talking about is a concept that is a fairly new concept, a fairly new phrase that all of us, on different levels, to different extents, all of us are experiencing. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about coronavirus fatigue. Corona fatigue. You may have lost your job as a result of it. You may not have been able to gather with family for the holidays. Certainly, your children have learned how to do school at home. Some are in school, some are not in school. Some are doing school at home, some are doing school in person in the classroom. Our lives have been turned upside down. And when I think back about it, and the experiences, and I share in this as well, I'm not just talking to you, I'm talking to myself here as well. I have experienced corona fatigue. My wife has experienced corona fatigue. My family members have experienced it. So on top of all of our lifestyles being turned upside down and inside out, what we've also experienced is a changing of the rules. Okay, so back in February and in March, there was a big clamp down. Everything kind of shut down. Businesses shut down, travel shut down, everything shut down back then. And so we weren't able to do the kind of things that we wanted to do. We weren't able to, back in the spring, get together in our churches to celebrate Easter. Churches now have had to go online, do their services online. The rules change. 1 week it's okay, 2 weeks later it's not. We have an upsurge or uptick in the spread of the virus, and everything gets blown up. Okay, and so we experience fatigue because of the continued stress that we're under. And I remember, perhaps like you do, I remember back in March and in April, and we kind of took some time off. My wife, because of school, had to take time off. The school shut down, and that was for several weeks. And I guess the first week was okay. Maybe the second week was okay. I mean, it's like, well, gee, this is an unexpected and unplanned for vacation. We can just kind of lay around and veg around and enjoy family, enjoy being together, and the days are getting longer, and so we can kind of do our thing and just kind of chill out and relax. But as the days wore into weeks and the weeks wore into months, and now here we are closing in on the first anniversary of when things started shutting down. It won't be long until we hit that first anniversary. So while at the beginning it was nice and wonderful and it was a happy kind of time, we didn't really know and understand a lot about the virus then. We were hearing the health experts. They were telling us one thing today and another thing tomorrow, and they were telling us to wear a mask and then don't worry about a mask, and we need to get a vaccine, and we were hearing all of that stuff. What happens is over time that takes a toll on us. It takes a toll on us relationally. It takes a toll on us mentally, physically, financially. It takes a toll on every aspect of our life. And for a lot of us, 60 and younger, we've never experienced anything like this. I remember, during the holiday talking to, and back in the spring talking to, some older folks who can remember the stories from, the Spanish flu, and it was being compared to the Spanish flu, and all that. We were just being inundated with information, and over time that tends to exhaust us. Well, I think we're really at that point. Do you realize that, and maybe you have heard, if not, you may be hearing it for the first time today, that that depression is at an all-time high this year over last year. Anxiety is at an all-time high this year over last year. Substance abuse, spousal abuse, child abuse, suicides are all up this year over last year, and it's a direct tie-in to the coronavirus. People who are being hospitalized, and still, even to this day, even to as of this podcast, people who are hospitalized for whatever reason, related to or not related to the coronavirus, are not able to have their family members visit. Nursing homes, some of them are just starting to maybe open back up, but then they close right back down, and so you have a loved one in a nursing home and you can't visit them. Maybe you could talk to them, or if you're fortunate enough, you can FaceTime with them, but there's nothing like that physical contact. We're told in our churches that we have to social distance, and that's a new phrase that's going to go down 2020, 2021 as the phrase, the catchphrase of all time. Social distancing, remaining 6 feet apart. Some churches had to close down because they were not able to social distance. Then when churches came back into opened back up, we had to seat our congregations every other pew, or make sure that they were 6 feet apart. It's been nuts. It's just been nuts. And on top of all of that is the uncertainty about what's coming next. And so what I want to do today, and I realize that's kind of a long introduction to what I want to say, but I want to set the stage for how do we move forward here? How do we move forward? Those of you who are school teachers and struggling with in-class students and virtual students, universities have almost gone fully now to virtual classes. What's the future look like? I got to tell you, I don't know. I don't know what the future looks like. Neither do you, and that's part of the problem. We like things to be predictable. All of us do. And when things are unpredictable, other things begin to happen. We have anxiety, we have anger, we have all of those kind of emotions. So let me just kind of quickly go down the list here of signs and symptoms of corona fatigue or COVID fatigue that maybe you're experiencing. You may have experienced all of these, or just a couple or three of them. Even if it's just 2 or 3, you're still experiencing COVID fatigue. How about irritability? Now, all of us, we tend to wake up on the wrong side of the bed sometimes, and I get that. But I'm talking about irritability as a result of unpredictability. See, I may go to one establishment and they require, masks. I was in one establishment yesterday, and they will not serve you unless you have a mask. I went just down the road just a little ways, and even though they have signs up, they're not on you about wearing a mask. So you go from one establishment to the other, and it gets irritating because the rules keep changing. Okay, so when I'm talking irritability here, I'm talking about beyond that which would be considered normal. Okay, just feeling stressed, headaches, gastrointestinal problems. All of that is related to. How about feeling anxious? Do you realize that there's been a spike, a big spike in anti-anxiety medication that is directly related to people fearful of the unpredictable? I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know what's going to happen. This week it may be okay. Next week it's not okay. How about eating more? Okay, my appetite's increased or my appetite's decreased. Unable to sleep. Unable or unmotivated or less productive. It's like, well, what's the use? Not able to be around family, extended family or friends. Not able to celebrate birthdays or holidays. Having racing thoughts. Trouble sleeping because you're constantly worried about and fretting over what you just saw or read on social media or on the news networks, or just being on edge, just in general. What we call being hyper vigilant. I'm scared. I'm scared to go out. I've talked to people who are just absolutely fearful of going out. In my private practice, there's been since last March, there's been a big increase in virtual sessions. I do virtual sessions. There's been, and it's one of the big reasons, not the only reason certainly, but a big reason is because people are fearful to get out. They're fearful to go anywhere. And so because of that, I can only be cooped up for so long, right? Any of us. We were created by God. Listen now. We were created by God as social beings. So when you talk about social distancing, that is counterintuitive. And I know it's become the buzz phrase now. I know it's, from health officials all the way down. It's what we hear all the time now. Day in and day out, hour in and hour out. But it's counterintuitive to us. Understand that we were created by God with these two hands and two arms to embrace each other. And now, if I embrace you, I'm fearful that, oh my gosh, you may be asymptomatic. You may end up giving it to me and you don't not even know it. Oh my gosh. And so we begin to be hesitant about even physical contact with the ones that we love and we care about. All of this that I've just talked about are signs and symptoms of what now is being known as COVID fatigue. It wears us down mentally, emotionally, relationally, psychologically, physically. It just wears us down. It's very much akin to, and you may have, you may be aware of this and have heard this phrase of burnout. It's very much akin to that you and I can only take so much of this stress, prolonged stress, until it just starts weighing on us. Now, what I want to do is very quickly give you some ideas, give you some things that you can do, because it doesn't seem like this is going to go away anytime soon. And so how do I reduce those signs and symptoms that I just listed for you? How do I go about doing that? How do I go about living in a COVID world without experiencing COVID fatigue? First of all, and this may sound odd because I'm using social media to get this word out, but you need to limit or unplug from media. We are, it's good in one way and it's bad in another, but we have now wall-to-wall coverage of any and all news. Wall-to-wall coverage. And if you're not watching TV, we're on our phones or our computers, iPads, whatever, on social media. So limit, or at least limit or unplug from social media. Give yourself I've had to do that. There's times where I go, a lengthy period of time. I just have to get away from it and distract myself and do something else. Now, what's difficult is during this time of year, particularly in the wintertime, days are short, days are cold, and it's difficult to get outside. It's either rainy or snowy or something like that, and so that makes it even more difficult. So if you're going to unplug or limit your media coverage, then or media access, then you need to find something else to do. Don't just unplug and the twiddling your thumbs trying to figure out what to do. Okay? So number one, unplug or limit your media access. Number two is focus on the future in positive ways. I'm going to be doing a podcast soon on the various seasons that we go through, and I believe that we as a nation, really we as a world, we're going through a season, and seasons come and we experience them, and seasons change. So focus on the future in more positive ways. We're going to all get through this. We really, really are. And you may have been, an unfortunate individual in that you've had a family member or a very close friend that has succumbed to COVID fatigue or COVID, the virus. That they have died. Now, they may have had complicating factors as a result of that, but you've experienced death in your family, and I know of some people who've experienced that. But look at the future. Even in spite of that, life does go on. You can't just stop living, right? You can't just stop living. And so focus on the future. That make plans. Now, when you make plans, you need to be flexible in that because things may change. I remember last summer when we were in the very heart of the virus and everything was shutting down. My wife and I had made plans to go out to Yellowstone National Park on our motorcycle, and we kept checking in April and May, and finally everything out west closed down, and so we had to alter our plans. So when you're planning for the future in the midst of this new existence that we have here, be flexible. I'm not saying don't plan. You should plan. But be flexible in those plans, that if something comes up, then you just have an alternate plan. Okay? So unplug from media. Focus on the future in more positive ways. Thirdly, don't focus on the worst. I often ask people, is your glass half empty or is it half full? Some people, by their very nature, and you may be one of them, by their very nature, they focus on the worst. Oh my gosh, this is the worst, the worst, the worst, the worst. It's just like, if you remember the days and weeks and really even months right after 9/11, oh, this is the worst thing, we'll never be the same, da-da-da-da-da. And eventually our lives got back into sync and we moved on. Things happen. So don't focus on the worst. And when I say don't focus on the worst, I mean worry about it. Worry to the point where you can't eat or you can't sleep, or you're increasing your appetite or decreasing your appetite, increasing your sleep or decreasing your sleep. Don't focus on the worst. Think about it now. Some of you who are watching or listening to this, some of you have lost your job as a direct result of the coronavirus. Businesses have decreased. Maybe you're a restaurant worker. Maybe you're you work in some retail store, and because of the decrease in business as a result of the coronavirus, you've lost your job. Man, I get it. That's tough. That's hard. And I'm not minimizing that at all. But if you just sit and wallow in all of that, you're not going to do yourself any good. In fact, you're going to exacerbate your problems. So don't think of the worst. Focus on that we're going to get through this, and we need to just sit down and figure out how we're going to get through this. If you're concerned about something, to the point where you're worrying about it, come up with possible solutions. I've had to over and over and over again, I've been talking to my clients about making lists. If you're not sure that your job is going to be there, if you've been laid off or whatever, instead of just focusing on oh my gosh, sit down and figure out possible solutions to your problem. If you've got bills to pay, okay, they're not going to go away. So how are you going to get those paid? That's what I'm talking about. So coming up with solutions, start putting your brain in gear, and don't be so overcome by the emotion of the times in which we live. And then if you have a concern about things being beyond your control, okay, here's an opportunity for you to learn a new skill. Okay, it's just that simple. All of us are control freaks to a certain extent. All of us are. Okay, I know I certainly am. All of us are. And when things are beyond our control, that's when we start getting whacked out. We start worrying and fretting, and because we want control, and we want control for ourselves, and then we start getting really upset when others are placing control on us. Well, you can't go here, you can't go there, you can't, you have to do this, don't do that, and all of the lists that the government officials place on us, and then that changes from week to week, month to month. So places of business open up, and then there's a spike, and then they have to close back down. So some things are beyond our control. You may not be able to change being in control, but maybe you can even change the outcome by changing the way you think. Changing the way you think. Work on those things that you control, like your own behavior. You can, in fact, control your own thought processes. Control the things that you can control, and the things that you can't control, that you cannot control, learn how to adapt to that and keep moving forward. Don't give up, don't give in, but the things that you can control those things. You can control your anger, you can control your irritability, all those things that I listed, those are things that you can control if you make your mind up to do that. So work on those things. I think if you work on those things that I've just listed here, that you're going to find that your strength is going to be improved. Your mental state is going to be improved. You won't be as depressed. This is a depressing time. I get it. But you don't have to live that way. You understand? You don't have to live that way. You can't, if you can't see, if you're fearful of, gathering for family, having family gatherings, do a Zoom call, okay? And you can get several family members on one Zoom call. No, you can't reach out and hug them, but at least you can see them, and at least you can, you can visit with them that way. So there are things that you can do, there are things that you can control in order to get through this. We will get through this. I'm sure that back in 1918, 1919, when the Spanish flu hit at the end of World War I, those people who did not have the medical advancements that we do today, they were wondering if they were ever going to get through it. Well, they did. Some, unfortunately, many thousands of people died, but there were survivors as well. And now with the medical technology and all of the medicines now that have been developed to counter this and to deal with this, there's a hopeful future. Think about those who experienced in the late 20s, early 30s, the Dust Bowl. There are some people who still, today are living who experienced the Dust Bowl, who were children during the Dust Bowl. They survived. Some didn't. I get that, but the vast majority did, and they got through it. We don't have a Dust Bowl now. Those of you maybe older adults, or maybe your parents or grandparents that suffered through the Depression, the Great Depression, they had to wonder, is it ever going to end? Is it ever? And that went on for a number of years. Is it ever going to end? Is it ever going to end? But they got through that. That's why I'm referring to this as a season of time. They got through it. We will get through this. You will get through this. But you have to begin to change the way you think and the way you act. The Bible teaches that as a man thinks, so is he. Thoughts precede behavior. Thoughts precede behavior. So, let me just kind of wrap this up for today. The unknown is always difficult to navigate. Always. We don't know which way to turn. We're uncertain about what even tomorrow, let alone next week or next month, is going to bring. The unknowns are always difficult to navigate. Make all the necessary adjustments that you can to stay connected with others. If you're fearful of, or you don't feel like it's a good thing to do, to go to family gatherings or to go to different parties or get together, find a way to connect. It's so important. Isolation is, and I want to say this literally, isolation from others is a killer. It's a killer. Please don't isolate yourself. Reach out someone. If you don't have good internet hookup, or you don't know how to run Zoom or Skype or any of the other social platforms, find somebody that does. Maybe if you're an older person, your adult child or your grandchild, they will tell you, they'll show you how, and they'll be glad to do that. But stay connected in any way that you can. Stay connected. Also, stay informed, but with that, be careful not to become obsessive about the information. We have been conditioned, and I believe that we have been conditioned to depend on social media. And I get that you're using social media. I'm using social media. And it's, we've come to rely on that. And if you want to test that out for yourself, don't use any social media for a month and see what happens. We have been conditioned that we have become dependent psychologically, and in some ways relationally, and behaviorally. We have become dependent on social media. But you need to stay informed, but don't be obsessive about staying informed. If you find that you're just constantly checking, and you can't go a half hour without checking on the latest news or checking on what, that's becoming obsessive, and that will increase that internal anxiety. Thoughts precede behavior. Okay, so stay informed and make sure that information is accurate and not rumors. Rumors are a killer. Rumors are what causes panic. False information is what causes panic. And so if somebody puts out there on social media, somebody puts out something, be sure to, and here's the term that's used today, fact check it. Don't just accept it, just outright. Do your own research, but don't become obsessive about it. And I saved this last thing this last point to last for a reason, and that is the Bible teaches us to pray without ceasing. Let me tell you something, if you haven't realized it already. God knew about this situation that we are in. God knew about this in eternity past. Did you know that? See, God's not limited by time or space. Okay? He's not limited by human interactions. God's got this thing. And all we have to do is pray for wisdom, pray for insight, pray for peace, internal peace, and I mean that literally, Jesus said to his disciples and to you and I, peace I give to you, not as the world gives, give I unto you. Let not your heart be troubled. Let not your heart be troubled. So pray without ceasing. Make it a regular habit of yours to pray, God give me wisdom, God give me insight, and God, through all of this, you're trying to teach us something. We don't want to just be over with the virus. That's certainly a hope and a prayer, but that's not the only thing that's going on here. That's my point. That's not the only thing going on. There's something for us to learn, something for us to be aware of. And I guess perhaps the biggest thing is how vulnerable we are as human beings. With all of the medical technology we have, we think we've got this thing, down pat. That we have all these medical advancements and we're going to be okay. And we just and this thing has hit us from nowhere. And now we realize, or should realize, how vulnerable we are. So when you're praying, and as you're praying, pray about that. Pray that God would show us individually, families, the Christian community, our nation, and the world at large, what He's trying to teach us about our own vulnerabilities. I think if you will do these things, it's certainly not going to make the stress completely go away, but maybe it'll lessen it. It's not going to make the worry go completely away. But the Bible teaches, the Bible teaches, cast all your care, all your worry, all your anxiety on me, for He cares for you. Cast all your cares, all your anxieties, all your worries, cast them on Him, for He cares for you. Let that be your guiding verse for the rest of this time. For however long it lasts, let that be your prayer. I want to cast all of this. God, you've got it. You're bigger and better and far more infinite than we are. I cast all my care on you because I know that you care for us. I want to thank you for tuning in to this episode of Lifeline for Daily Living. I hope that what I have shared with you today will decrease some of that worry and anxiety. I think if you do those things that I've suggested, you'll certainly experience that. If you need to contact me, you want to come by and sit down and chat a little while, you can call me at 573-732-4575 and be glad to make you an appointment. Also, I would hope that if you're watching this on YouTube, that you'll click that subscribe button and you will get all of these podcasts. I'm going to be on YouTube now, and for right now I'm on Facebook. So if you'll share this, I think more and more and more people need to hear this word of encouragement for you, for your family, for everyone. God bless you. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you right here next week on Lifeline for Daily Living.